What's up, Instagram family? What's up, guys? It's been a while. I hope you all are doing well. Things have certainly been busy for me. I tell you, it's just kind of hard trying to keep track of everything. But hey, listen, life goes on. I hope all you guys are thriving. I hope you're healthy. I hope you're well. I hope your family's doing great. I am Latoya DeWhite, the founder of the Fibroid Pandemic, and I'm excited because I have an amazing IG live session for you guys tonight. Just trying to get my phone together here. One moment. If you guys can hear and see me okay, give me some thumbs up. But as I was saying, I'm Latoya DeWhite. I'm the founder of the Fibroid Pandemic. And I'm excited about this IG live because I met this young lady probably about 2 months ago. We were at an event and we just kind of connected and started having some really great conversations, and just realized that we're both in alignment as far as, you know, living a healthy lifestyle, and several other things. And I asked her to come on an IG live session with me so we can just talk about it. But also, she has some amazing things underway that I would love to share with you guys as well. One, thank you so much. Love Me Sweets. Oh, I like that name. I think I've seen you before. How's it going? So before we get started, a couple things. Number one, if you guys would please put down in the chat where you all watching from. I love to hear where people are tuning in from. So let me know. Shout out your city, shout out your state, wherever, shout out your hood or whatever. Let me know where you guys are listening in from. Secondly, if you have a question, put it inside that question bubble right at the bottom of the screen here. Every so often, if we get very in tune into our conversation, it's a little bit difficult to catch the questions as they're scrolling up. So if you can just put it inside that question bubble, that'd kind of help us as far as keeping track of everything. I don't want anyone to think that we're ignoring them, or that we inadvertently oversaw, or that we're overseeing your question or your comment. So I hope you guys are doing great. I am going to actually submit a request because we have some really good stuff to talk about here tonight, guys. And let's see.
Hi, how are you?
Oof. How am I, honey?
Yes.
Oh my God.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm all over the place. I have so much going on. I have a lot going on. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's so nice to, connect with you. That Glambitious event was amazing, and I am just blessed to have been a part of that, because I met some beautiful women, just empowering and just encouraging, and that is so necessary, especially in this season, for us to connect, support, and just really stand behind each other. And I love it. Like, the energy was amazing.
I agree 100%. And I was kind of talking about that a little bit in the beginning of when I first came on. And the thing is that oftentimes we say, hey, you have people who stand in the trenches with you. You have advocates on your side. But it really comes down to, who's going to walk the walk, right?
That's right.
When I first when we first connected, it was kind of casual, but we really connected. And then I, reached out and said, hey, I think we ought to kind of further this connection here. And who knew that the timing would fall in line with your newly released book, which we're going to talk about, guys. But I think it's amazing because I believe in divine order, and I don't think anything happens by mistake. So without further ado, everyone, Dr. Natasha Weems. Show some love. Let's see some hand claps. Show some hearts.
You said it correctly. They call me Chicken Wing, Dr. Wings, all type of.
Really? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, wings is difficult for the community to get right. Yes.
I've never known that. It seems so.
I like Wings, Williams, like whatever. Yes, whatever, but Wings. But thank you for that.
I would have never ever thought of that. I mean, it just seems pretty easy to me, right?
It's not.
Hey, Rollins, how you doing? Thank you for tuning in. So, Dr. Natasha, how are you doing, my dear?
You know what? I am great. I am really enjoying all of the, positive energy, the support that I've been receiving. And, you receive what you give out. And so I am a firm believer of that.
Mm-hmm. You know, you've had a lot going on. So to hear you say that is great. And I tell you, one thing that I always try to tell people is that, it's important that you kind of check in with yourself, because a lot of times we get so busy and we get so bogged down with everyday life things that we kind of forget to take inventory on how our bodies are doing, which kind of brings me to, for you specializing in primary care, what was it that even just drove you to get into that type of profession? What was it?
Well, initially, I had exposure to that early on in my family. I was surrounded by women that were in the medical field,
Mm-hmm.
but it was just certain things that happened along the way that really confirmed that I was on the right path.
Mm-hmm.
And one was when I was, having some complications. I was a young parent, and when I was hospitalized, the care that I received from a nurse, I was fearful. I didn't know what to expect. No matter how many YouTube videos you watch, no matter how many, articles you read, are you really ever prepared for childbirth? No, you're not. And so the love and the support that I received from her, it was a reassurance that I was going in the right direction and in the right field. And just knowing that you have to have that compassion to go into nursing, but she really did make an impact, and that's important.
And that's very important to even hear you say that, because you're right. Nothing can completely or fully get you prepared for childbirth.
Right.
I was a young mother. My son and I, we literally grew up together. I had my son at 19 years old, and I have a man child now. And sometimes when people see us out in public, they actually think he's my husband. But, I think that's very cool that you have someone who you can not only entrust in your body.
Right.
Our bodies are our temple. And a lot of times, especially women with fibroids, we are, the imposter syndrome, the just being, what word am I looking for? Just not being taken very seriously, kind of disregarded,
That's
not represented. That's very important that you have a doctor, whether it's a primary care physician or any type of specialty provider, who can really be there to advocate for you and really help kind of guide you along your healing journey or just your wellness as a whole. So when you say, let's talk about women's health, because I know you're a health advocate,
yeah.
really believe in things like that. What do you define as women's health?
I define women's health, obviously, it's a unique set of concerns and needs for women and specific to women. And it's important to acknowledge and understand that it's not just physical, it's your social, it's your emotional well-being. So just knowing that all of that is packaged into one that encompasses
Mm-hmm.
women's health.
Mm-hmm.
Many times people get stuck on one term, but you want to take care of the entire being, the entire package. And that's really powerful, because I think as women, we get busy and we're going about our day, the hustle and bustle, but not really prioritizing our health. And then as you are an advocate for improving knowledge for fibroids,
Mm-hmm.
I really love that. And when I did see you discuss that, and you did a great presentation at the Glambitious conference, it was just like really empowering, because so many people battle from fibroids and
Mm-hmm.
they don't know really how to digest the information, because it's shocking, because you feel like something is invading your body. And then after that, really trying to gather the correct information, filtering through what you should really do, because it's so much information
Mm-hmm.
on the internet, on YouTube, and just trying to filter through that information and really try to figure out what is the best approach for you. And many times when you present similar to us, different certain ethnicities, some of the information might be different and packaged a little differently for you.
Mm-hmm.
And many times that doesn't necessarily mean that's the best recommendation. And so I am an advocate, and yes, I love my profession, but what's right is right. And so we need to, focus on providing all types of information and not just going straight to surgical intervention for populations. I'm trying to keep it real,
Look, and
I'm
this
trying
is
to fight, but I'm really I'm giving you a punch with it because I'm being very upfront, and that's it is what it is, and we have to address that and bring things to the forefront so we can recognize what are some disparities.
Right. It's amazing that you say that. To your last point about disparities, medical disparities are so very prevalent. The disparities in the U.S. healthcare system as a whole, and people don't realize that. If you all see me keep looking down, that's because I'm perusing her website yet again. If you guys go online to Dr. Natasha, thenp.com, Dr. Natasha, THENP.com, you'll see all about her projects that she has going on, a lot of the events that she's done in the past for Media Kit, so on and so forth. She has a lot of great information out there. So make sure you guys are definitely checking her out, and also click that carrot up top to make sure you're following her. But, when we talk about medical disparities, I find a lot of times that it's hard for us to find our voice because we don't know. And I'll use myself as an example. I am type A personality, and I found it to be a little bit difficult to communicate with my doctor because I don't want to be pegged as, number one, being an angry Black woman, number two, being a difficult patient. I just didn't want to be pegged as that, but I had questions, I had concerns. So what are some things that you think people should do when they're having these conversations with their primary care doctor? In your instance as a PCP, what do you think some things that people should do to try to help cultivate that relationship with their doctor?
I would say show up as your authentic self. So if you're concerned about something, advocate for yourself. Advocate for yourself. So don't be concerned about being embarrassed. There is not a dumb question.
Right.
Life is ever, it's evolving, it's learning. So no one is perfect. So don't let that intimidate you, because that, I think, is an issue. I've had patients come in and tell me that they've never had a provider explain to them the outcomes of certain interventions or what are several choices, and not trying to direct them to one choice. And so with that being said, that allowed me to understand that it's not a equal balance there in the healthcare industry. And so it's not a dictatorship either. You should be talking to your patients and understanding their knowledge base so you can figure out what is the knowledge gap. So you can, you have to empower your patients with their choices in their medical care. And so I tell people, do not be shy. Do not feel like ashamed of asking questions. I think that is a major concern. And if you feel like your provider is not providing appropriate care, fire your provider. People are so scared to switch providers. It's like, I can do, you can do that. If you don't feel like you're getting accurate information, if you don't feel like you're getting respected, if you feel like you're just another number, another chart, guess what? There's other providers. If you feel like you need a second opinion, guess what? It's okay. It's okay to get a second opinion. And so I think people get a little intimidated by the white coat. They get, and then also write your questions down before you go to your appointment.
Yes.
In your appointment, and you see people, grabbing blood sugar, checking your vital signs, throwing all of this information at you. And then you're in this environment where you already feel that you could be told something, traumatic. So you want to write all of your questions down and prepare for your appointment. And I found that patients that come in with questions written down, they tend to get a lot more out of their appointments.
I talk about that, and I agree with you 100%. It's so important for you to think through your appointment before you actually get, because what people don't realize, statistically, we may have about 6 minutes of FaceTime with our doctor, and it's very difficult as you're having that communication dialogue back and forth with your doctor, it's very difficult for you to get all of your questions out, because contingent upon how she may answer something may spark another question. So at least this way, if you're coming to that appointment in advance, question ready, it can really help make a more thorough conversation, a more thorough doctor visit. And then, hopefully you won't walk away feeling as though it was a waste of your time, or as though you were unseen or unheard. And I truly do appreciate that as a primary care, specialist, primary care physician. I do really appreciate that, because a lot of people, they never thought of it. And to your point about the white coat syndrome, people are intimidated. I'll tell you, my mom, years ago, my mom's no longer with us, but years ago, I remember when I was in high school, my mom had what was called tumor surgery. Mm-hmm. And now today's age, we call that fibroids. And it was never a question about what other options were out there. It was just like, oh, I have to have tumor surgery. And to your point about that white coat, people just do whatever their doctor says. And I'm not saying to go against the grain or not to do what your doctor suggests, but it's so critical that you do your research on your own to try to figure out what, and to your point, what may be best for you, because there's not a one size fits all. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. There's not a one size fits all. And I think people feel that, hey, it's a doctor, he or she knows what they're doing, and we're just going to move forward. Like they're almost afraid, or they feel intimidated to ask questions.
That is very true. So I'm glad that you were able to highlight that for people who are trying to figure out, think through some type of chronic condition that they're facing. And it can be overwhelming when you're getting all of this information, especially when the initial diagnosis. Mm-hmm. That is a lot to really take in and filter through all of the information that's thrown at you. So I just tell people, even if you have like a nurse or a healthcare provider in the family, it's okay to add people to your appointment. Mm-hmm. I have my family members add me to their appointments, and they know as soon as I get on the phone, it's press green, go. I'm like, okay, what was your rationale for that diagnosis? What are the labs? I want to know, what was the plan of care? I want to ask those questions. And I think my family member or friend feel empowered when they know that they have someone that's there asking appropriate questions. And when you have someone in the hospital or in those settings, that allows the medical staff to understand, okay, I need to come correct and sure that I'm slowing down here and not just bouncing through each room to each patient, and really take my time out and explain to this person what's going on, what the outcomes are from the interventions that, I'm proposing.
And oh my gosh, that is such a great point. It's almost like how years ago when my son was in school, when there's a parent that's present, it's like the school treat your child differently with a little bit more dignity.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing in healthcare. I never thought of that. The same thing in healthcare. When you have an advocate on your behalf, or someone who's trying to help you, support you, it is almost like a better experience, more thorough, and it shouldn't have to be like that. It should just automatically come with the territory. But at some point in history, there's become a disconnect with the doctor and the patient. Not always, but generally speaking, there's that disconnect there, and we need to figure out as patients, utilizing your tools and your resources so that you can try to fill those gaps. Because to your point, if you have someone who can come and speak on your behalf, or even just be in the room present, sometimes the experience may be completely different just by simply having someone there with you present.
That's true, and I encourage other providers, that's a part of health and wellness and being an advocate, and it's helping bridge that gap in that communication, especially between the patient and the provider. So, and I talk about that in my book as well. I actually tell people, like, listen, this is what I've encountered in life. I utilize some of my own experiences, and I talk about everything, and I know you're going to get to that, but I do discuss how to advocate, especially if you have a family member that has special needs. A ton of resources are in the book, and it's funny because that's what the intent was initially, to empower families and to empower people to know what some of their options are when they're dealing with chronic conditions or a family member that is suffering from chronic conditions.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of chronic conditions, and you mentioned the book, let's just get into it. So you have this book, it's called Unbreakable Woman,
Yeah.
and Resilience in Every Season.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys heard that, but embracing resilience in every season. Resiliency is almost the DNA of Black women. Did y'all catch that? Resiliency is almost the DNA of Black women. So first thing, I have so many questions about the book, which I'm amazed and I can't wait to get it myself. Unbreakable Woman. How did you come up with that title?
I was just searching and searching and searching. And what I stand for is definitely empowerment, definitely trying to pretty much support other women on their journey, and just being that big sister role that I wish I had. I am that person. I am the big sister. So, just someone to say, hey, instead of being on this hamster wheel in life, or instead of like being so, being in a situation where you don't feel like you have that support, I try to, offer resources and just like a lot of impact. That's what it is, a lot of impact with some of the information that's given. And I decided, as I started writing, I just started really pouring out so many parts of my life, because it was therapeutic, to be quite honest. It was very therapeutic. And as I was writing, I wanted to use another example and another example. So the genre it was self-help, and then also a memoir, because I am using some, situations from my life. And I do talk about how nursing as a profession, it was not just a career choice for me, but it actually saved my life. And
wow.
That's very powerful. When you hear those words, it saved my life. And when you read through the chapters, I really kind of, guide you through how that wasn't just a career choice. Some people get into it because it's very lucrative, and you can really have a ladder up to different levels and different opportunities. But for me, it was different. But the outcome of that, and to realize how it changed and impacted my life and changed me and prevented me from homelessness. Yeah, that was really the most powerful part of my journey in nursing. But I do talk about that too. And, people ask me, should I go into nursing? I wouldn't bat an eye, and also the pandemic changed a lot of that. I'm mindful of that. I don't ignore that. And the profession has changed, and we need a lot of advocacy for nurses. And that doesn't change that, but I would never, take it for granted, or never think that I made a poor choice going into nursing, for sure.
Well, I'll tell you, we definitely need more people like you in our healthcare field. And you took my question. I was going to ask, what can people expect to get from your book? So what was that pivotal moment in your life that made you decide to actually go ahead? Because, people talk about journaling, they meditate, they write down their prayers, they write down their affirmations. What was that pivotal moment in your life, in Dr. Natasha Weems's life, that made you say, you know what, I'm going to write this book?
So as a child, I was a writer. My mother would think that I was, like really different in terms of like an assignment that you had to write. And it would be something simple, and I would write almost like a 10-page paper. And she's like, you only had to do 3 paragraphs, and what are you writing about? Like, my mind would, just venture off, and I'm just always like a very intuitive person, and just like, and I would just explore what I was going through in my mind, my creativity, and I was able to pour it out on paper. And so I always knew that I would write a book. But when I actually relocated to California, I started having more time where I was able to concentrate and actually get more in tune with my purpose. And that is what led me to start the book.
So you just said something, relocating to California and getting in tune with your purpose. I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I think a lot of people struggle with getting into with their purpose and really taking the time to hone in on that. I oftentimes say, what would you do in your life? What type of profession, what type of career, whatever would you do, even if you did not get paid for it? And I think that's part of the blueprint to getting in tune with your life, right? I saw a question here. I don't know if the person's still on, but I'm trying to scroll back because I think I overlooked it. It's from Jen Star 1123. I have a question, ladies. I've had a myomectomy before and the fibroids came back. Should I remove them again or just try natural remedies and discontinue eating meat since it's full of hormones? Then looks like they followed up with the question. Doctors always recommend surgery. Is that the only option for fibroid treatment? Two things I would say about that, Jen Star 1123, is it's a personal decision. There's no right or wrong answer. I will tell you that. So whatever you decide is your prerogative. There's a couple things you want to consider, though, as to whether or not you ought to go back and get another myomectomy. It's your lifestyle. And the reason, what I mean by that is if you are not approaching every aspect of your life to try to help mitigate those fibroids from going back, there's a chance that you may be in a doctor's office again for a third, fourth, fifth surgery. So a couple things to consider. Yes, removing red meat, that's definitely an easy one, but I would say several other things. Removing pork, fried foods, dairy. Dairy is the devil as it relates to your uterus or your reproductive system as a whole. But those highly processed foods, so foods that they have more than 4 or 5 ingredients on the back of the label, or you can barely pronounce it, you definitely want to try to stay away from that. But other things that I would recommend, because oftentimes people say, oh my God, you're taking that away. What is it that I can eat? There's a lot of stuff you can actually eat, believe it or not. Just incorporate a lot of fresh fruits and veggies, a lot of cruciferous veggies. I make my own juice. I drank it this morning. I make my own celery juice. One week it may be turmeric and blood oranges or whatever, but really get into natural organic fruits and veggies. One thing I will say though, and this is probably, it is a very unpopular opinion, veganism does not guarantee that you will not develop fibroids. There are so many people out here touting vegan. Veganism is great for a lot of people. It doesn't work for all. However, understanding what works best for you is very, very critical. So with all that, I would say do some research, have open conversations like Dr. Natasha Weems said, have those conversations with your doctor. Let them know your concerns. Let them know where you're falling short and things you need more explanation about. Do research. For me personally, I read scholar articles, I read medical journals. Some I understood, some I did not. And full transparency, I have 2 degrees, so I consider myself fairly educated, but still, continue doing your research. Ask friends, ask family. You can go to Dr. Google, but Dr. Google is probably not the best source. But there are several other things out there that you can do. So I hope you found that to be helpful. I know I said a lot, but fibroids are a lot. So there's not just one thing I want you to realize is, again, it's not a one size fits all. So I hope that did answer your question. All right. So again, if anyone has a question, put it inside that question bubble at the bottom, because I don't want to overlook it. So my apologies if I inadvertently overlooked her question there. Let's get back to you here, Dr. Weems. I want to talk about, you talked about that pivotal moment in your life when you moved and you wanted to get back in tune with everything. What are some things, like 3 key things, if you had to think of, what are key things you would recommend that women do to even improve their health? We talked about having conversations with their doctor, having advocates on your behalf. But what are 3 things that women as a whole can do to help hone in or help improve their lifestyle, their health?
Right. So prioritizing mental health. People find it helpful with just trying to break the stigma of actually having a diagnosis of a mental health condition and not being afraid to access mental health services. And I speak about that as well in my book. a lot of different situations where mental health hits home, and I have a lot of experience with that personally. So I really do advocate for that, because in our community, it's always been hidden. It's been something that people were ashamed to say, that one, they battled, and two, that they were actually seeing a therapist. So I enjoy when there's platforms that allow people to feel safe, allow people to feel that they're doing the right thing, encouraging people to access mental health services
Mm.
to empower them. I've seen too many, stories of suicide, of people I've met, people my patients I've had, and it's heavy. And when you have a patient, it just take a couple of minutes out to say, hey, you feeling sad? You feeling, it's different ways you can address homicidal and suicidal questions. You don't have to say it in that way. You can just kind of filter through that and just observe the patient and see how they would respond.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely key to tackle your mental health first.
I love that.
Mindfulness, many people find that to be another tool in terms of tackling mental health, and exercise and whatever, journaling, whatever that's enjoyable, self-care. That's what we are really, that's a really prominent title or topic right now, because many people are neglecting their self-care. This is I want it yesterday world. This is the, let's tear people down world. Let's critique, let's criticize everything a person is doing, body, how they wear their hair, and so people tend to, you're running around, you're trying to figure out what you should be doing, trying to meet the standard, the beauty standard. And you have to just take the time out and just really tune into your mental health and your self-care, your exercising, and just prioritize that.
I have to say, oh my gosh, this is really good. Let's talk about mental health for a second there. In the Black community, you're right. We're not taught to talk about mental health issues, depression, anxiety, just simply being upset, period. It's always, oh girl, go somewhere and pray it away. With anxiety, I will tell you, so I had some medical issues last year, and I went to the emergency room, and they literally, they did some lab work or whatever, and they probably did an x-ray, and they're like, yeah, you just have anxiety, and they prescribed me Xanax. So you and I both know the power of Xanax, right? And I'm like, I'm no doctor by any means, but aren't there some more baseline tests that y'all probably want to run before going prescribing me Xanax? And for me, I was shocked. Now, I will say this, I am totally fine and accepting of the fact that I probably did develop a form of anxiety because my body became so unpredictable. But just outright anxiety, no. And if I did have it, I was okay with that. I wasn't in denial. It was just can we kind of getting back to the whole thing about the lack of thoroughness, and being kind of disregarded. Can you just do a little bit more for me, because I knew, and luckily I steadfast on my healing journey. And I went to probably, I don't know, maybe 10 to 15 doctors between last year and now, and finally was able to get to the root of it. So I appreciate you for bringing that up. Number one, about mental health. But the other thing, self-care, you hit the nail on the head. We have abandoned ourselves. We've abandoned ourselves. We don't make self-care a priority. I literally just the other day, because 2 weeks ago, we had a super busy weekend. So I told my husband, we're not doing nothing. And we went to the spa. We got full body massages, and we had some food, and just kind of relaxed. And I was like, you know what? We need to get back to this more often, make it a priority. So I will tell you, I actually signed up, and I was proud of myself. I signed up for a monthly massage subscription at this massage place here in Atlanta. And I'm like, oh my God, I have to make that a priority for myself, because if I don't, it's like you're on the hamster wheel, right? Where we're given to everyone else. We're given to our jobs. We're giving to our families. We're giving to our friends. We're giving, giving, giving. And at the end of the day, we have like not even an ounce left for ourselves. So I
That's
do.
exciting. Yeah, that definitely is, and I found myself in that
Mhm,
phase of going,
mhm,
and so I've slowed down, and
mhm,
I'm not 5 anymore,
right.
But and what I also wanted to say is also make sure you're doing health screenings for early intervention too. And another thing that I'm seeing personally is, and I know this is women's health, but prostate cancer
Yeah.
for men. I think men need to, make sure that they're getting screened for that. And also, obviously, women, mammogram, just going for your pap smears. I met a young lady who she was maybe like 23 or 24, and she had never had a pap smear. And so, I was really surprised by that, and I had to regroup and mentally digest that information, because I just wasn't very sure how that happened.
Oh my
But
God.
I did thorough patient education, and just different reasons, and the poor outcomes of not actually having healthcare screenings, and how can you screen for any type of fibroids or any type of abnormal, tenderness. And she was having heavier cycles. And so
Mm-hmm.
you're going through some of those issues. Your body is telling you something is wrong. It's alerting you.
Right.
And ignore some of those signs that your body is going through. So early screening is really imperative for trying to do some soon, like early, and just really trying to tackle the issue and not ignoring it.
Dr. Natasha, I want to ask you this. So, I work in the insurance field. I've been doing employee benefits for over 23 years and counting. I'm really dating myself. Hi, Dr. Yem. Fibroid doc. Dr. Yem is in the building. Hey there. Um, so I know that a lot of insurance policies have changed the coverage for pap smears. And I knew about it. I didn't really pay attention until I went for mine this year.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctor almost wouldn't do it. She's like, well, you're not due until like another 3 years, because some policies will cover it. They move from once a year to either once every 3 years or once every 5 years. Well, what is your thought? Because I told her, I said, you know, I don't care if they won't cover, I still want it. What is your thought on that about getting, like, because to your point about early detection, what's your thought about, if a policy doesn't cover pap smears or just any type of early preventive type of screening annually?
I think that it depends on the situation. So you have to, take all of the information in which each situation. But if there's something that's not covered, then sometimes there's ways around it in regards to how you word and diagnose. And
Mm-hmm.
so, for example, there are age ranges for starting colon cancer screening, and then if you're presenting to the office and you're in your 20s, they're not going to be it's going to be less likely for them to say you need a colonoscopy.
Right.
So if the wording is aligned with some high risk factors, then
Mm-hmm.
you some of those procedures approved. So it just depends, because there are different diagnoses that they're changing some of the screening for in regards to what they feel that is going to be billed and approved. But
Mm-hmm.
every situation, it just depends. But there are some wording and some ways you can get certain things approved.
So at the end of the day, guys, what I hear her say is, listen, you guys still advocate for yourself regardless.
For yourself. And if you There's very minimal signs and symptoms that can present, and you just have to, make sure you're paying attention to your alarm system in your body. So
Mm.
abdominal pain, and we never even discuss what are some of those signs and symptoms of the
Yeah.
fibroids, because for people who are tuning in, and know that you're an advocate, and that's a common question, actually. And some people don't even have symptoms, but for the most part, people are normally having heavier menstruals, which is one of the reasons why they present to the doctor's office. Sometimes they'll have like an enlargement in their abdomen area, or they'll have discomfort, cramping, severe cramp. So, I mean, it can present in different ways. I'm primary care. I do consult out to women's health providers when that happens. But it's just important for people to know that, healthcare screenings is very important. Although you might feel okay, but you never know what you're missing, because many people can have these fibroids and never have any symptoms. They can be what's called asymptomatic. So that's just important too. We have people who are in their 20s and they feel like, not, untouchable,
Right.
healthy, and then, they go to the doctors and they, have a fibroid.
Well,
Now,
to your point, I was that patient. I was asymptomatic. I didn't know that there were fibroids on my uterus. I had no idea. I would work out. I used to be a trainer years ago, not anymore. And no matter what, I just could not get rid of this pooch. But I didn't think anything of it. I thought, honestly, number one, I thought I had a child. I've only had one kid. I also thought because I was getting older. But yet did I realize that fibroids were invading my uterus. And I'll tell you the way that I found out about it is because when my then boyfriend, who's now my husband, he and I decided that we did not want to have an unplanned pregnancy. So I got on the IUD Marina. That needs to be replaced every 5 years. So I went to go get it replaced and they couldn't find it. So my OBGYN, who I thought I had a relationship with, she sent me into ultrasound. This is all within her same exact doctor's office. And the ultrasound tech was able not only to locate the actual IUD, but she was also to determine that they were able to, it's in a place where they can get it, where they can extract it. And she said to me, by the way, how are your fibroids coming along? And I go, what's that? And like, now that I'm educated and I've taken inventory of my body, like you said, pay attention to your body, those early alarm symptoms, which I really love that. I realized that the lethargy, extreme lethargy, is a symptom. When your woman is telling you, when your sister, your daughter, whoever, when your body is telling you that you're just always tired, even when you get enough sleep, you're still tired, that can be a telltale sign. If your hair, your skin, and your nails, if your hair is breaking, falling out, or either not, my hair wasn't falling out, it just wasn't growing, that's a telltale sign. Because that individual who may have heavy periods, they become anemic, and anemia affects your hair, skin, and nails.
yes.
For me, I have heavy periods, so those are just a couple of things to pay attention to. But even more things that one of the most common things that people talk about as it relates to fibroids is really heavy periods. They don't talk about the nerve damage. They don't talk about the vein damage. They don't talk about that kind of stuff. And quite frankly, those are a lot more detrimental. I've even said this on my page about how fibroids are not life-threatening, that you can do what's called watchful waiting. With this recent information that I gather, and I'll be making an announcement in a couple of weeks, that's so far from the truth, and people don't realize that. So I really thank you, Dr. Williams, for just going back to that, because that's very, very critical. And I see a question here. Oh, Jen Star says, yepo, yep, felt no pain otherwise. Exactly. Yep.
So I don't think people realize that a fibroid could be very small, it can go undetected in terms of symptoms. And you can have one a size of like lemon or mango, or like they can grow very, very large, and it can cause so many issues. Like you said, it can compress the nerves. It can cause issues with your lower extremities. It can cause you to have pain in other areas of your body because of the pressure and the compression. So that is very true. And that is one of the reasons why many women present to my office. It's because of the heavy cycles.
Mm-hmm.
And then start doing blood work, they are known to have a lower hemoglobin and showing, you know, like iron levels are off and showing that they're having some anemia. And that starts the process of identifying what's going on. And, you know, you can have an ultrasound and, you know, obviously having your pap smears and having a pelvic exam. It is all just like very crucial to making sure that you're screening yourself and you're taking care of yourself and gaining knowledge. So just like this, and I tell people, like, Instagram is a free platform. YouTube, like, if you want to learn more information, and just, you don't have to take everything with a grain of salt. Like, you can literally just kind of get a different perspective from different platforms, from different people, from different experiences, from different specialties. But it's important to, like, really gather information. And so you can feel like you're making a well-informed decision. That's important. And so that's what I tell people. And even when I'm on IG Live and I get a lot of questions about what they should do regarding a diagnosis, this is not a platform to diagnose, but we're just trying to guide you in that direction, trying to make you feel more confident, trying to trigger something to make you understand the importance of going to get a checkup, and also making you understand what are some outcomes of not. Like, what are you going to do when you're facing like a critical or a significant diagnosis, and it's something that could have been prevented with screening? And one that's really I'm saying often is colonoscopies and colon cancer. And so, you know, with screening, you can really identify that and really, you know, tackle that, because it takes some time, you know, for some of those abnormal findings and nodules, et cetera, to fester, you know. So it's just important for us to be, you know, keep that in the forefront. But this is not a platform to diagnose. And like you said, that, you know, we can't tell you exactly what to do. It's about making a well-informed decision with all of the information that you gather and with the discussion with your primary care provider. If you feel like your primary care provider is not addressing your concerns, is not giving you the information that you need, is not paying attention to you, and you feel like you're just another number, it's okay to get another opinion. It's okay to say, you know, this is not a good patient-provider relationship. I think that I would benefit, you know, speaking to someone else. And that's okay. You don't have to feel guilty or like you're, you know, stepping on someone's shoes or toes, or, you know, it's okay. That's a part of life. And, you know, sometimes when you're younger, you're a little more timid. But, you know, when you're older, you're like, you know, you fired. I've been fired before. But, you know, if you don't give out Viagra, you get fired.
But this, you know, to your point, that kind of goes back to what you were saying about self-care. You know, part of self-care is getting those screenings in the effort to identify any type of early detection. You know, hopefully your results will be negative, but in the event that they are positive, at least you're kind of getting a head start on things. But yeah, I mean, you're right. I feel that the older we get, the more outspoken we become. I know that I do. And you feel more empowered to speak your truth. You feel more empowered to speak up for yourself. And that's very critical, because you get only one body. You know, I haven't heard of them. They do heart transplants and all other type of transplants. They're not transplanting your body. You're born with one body, and you do all that you can to make your body's healthy. But I saw a question here. Hey, Morgan. It's Morgan V. She's like my new Instagram bestie. I see a question here.
You love your Instagram besties that you form. I'm like, oh my God. But, you know, I become like closer to my Instagram family and friends.
Isn't that true? Isn't that the truth? So
yeah, you really do develop some bonds.
From Kendall, I believe you pronounce it Hoft. What is considered a large fibroid? That's a great question. What I would say is anything larger than 5 centimeters. Your doctor may say something different. Again, everything that we discuss on based on my own personal research and or my own personal experience. And that can be by way of collaborations, you know, doing my own research, scholar articles, journals, whatever, etc., or going through my healing journey on my own. So I want to make sure I put that disclaimer out there. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse practitioner. Dr. Natasha Weems is here for that. But what I would say is anything that's like larger than 5 or 6 centimeters, So lemon is probably about the size of a 5 centimeter. I will tell you for myself personally, two largest fibroids that were on my uterus were 7 centimeters and 11 centimeters. And no wonder why people would oftentimes ask if I was pregnant. Seven is probably about the size of about maybe a small, maybe about a mango, grapefruit mango, and 11 is about the size of a melon. So that's what's considered a large fibroid. I hope you find it helpful. Another question here that I saw was,
I think someone saying they had a 4 centimeter
yeah,
found 2020 and now it's grown.
and see that.
And you did discuss ways to shrink and decrease the fibroids. Did you elaborate on that?
Yeah.
Because I really enjoyed that as well, because people, don't understand. You did talk about the power of nutrition.
Food, right.
And talk about the power of nutrition.
Right. To her point, to Kendall's point, thanks. I've got one that was 4 centimeters in 2020. Now it's 4.7. So let's get back. That kind of, I'm not sure what you're doing with your lifestyle or what changes you're making to try to help mitigate the growth of fibroids. But watchful waiting is one thing that a lot of doctors talk about. I've even talked about it myself. Now, the only way I would even feel comfortable with someone doing watchful waiting is simply not anything and just waiting to make sure, kind of monitoring the fibroid to make sure that they're not growing. However, if you are not changing your lifestyle, watchful waiting is only going to basically allow more time for that fibroid to grow larger and your symptoms to get worse. So if your fibroid was 4 centimeters and now it's 4.7, I would love for you to do inventory as to what have you done or are you doing to help mitigate that. So number one, minimize stressors, internal stressors, anything you're dealing with personally, mental health wise, stress wise, or whatever, external relationships, your work, love life, friends, whatever, family. You need to minimize your stressors as much as I tell you. Oftentimes when I say to people, when they receive their diagnosis, to your point, it doesn't, fibroids don't grow overnight. Your conditions don't develop overnight. Fester for several years on end. When you receive that diagnosis, let's kind of walk it back. What transpired in your life 3 to 5 years before that diagnosis, even 10 years before that diagnosis? I can guarantee there's some type of trauma there. So getting back to her point about the size of the fibroid, I definitely do recommend that you keep that conversation with your doctor, get the ultrasound, MRI to help determine whether or not those fibroids are growing. If they are growing, again, you will hear some people who say there's nothing you need to do about it. I definitely encourage you to do something about it. And again, I'm going to be making an announcement in a couple weeks to talk about my journey. So I hope you found that helpful. But looks like Jen Star 1123. Is it safe to get a second myomectomy? Oh, we talked about that one already.
Oh, you talked about that. That was our first question.
Yeah. If you had a myomectomy before and the fibroids come back, is it a risk to move it a second time? It's kind of sort of the same thing. Is it a risk? It really depends on your body. There's not a one size fits all. What I would say is to have your doctor run some tests, myomectomy, blood work, lab work, to see the integrity of your uterus. But there's several other factors that you definitely want to consider. So I hope that was helpful to you. Okay, Jen, sorry, I've been asking if the fibroids come back. Okay, I think I just answered it.
Those are some good questions, though. I'm glad that you're being brave to ask those questions, because that is exactly what we were talking about. People not asking, like, what is considered large? What are the outcomes? What can happen if if I find growth again? So those are some really good questions. I'm glad that you were able to, get some insight and feel a little more empowered with your decision moving forward. So.
Absolutely. Again, guys, if you are not following Dr. Natasha Weems, click that carrot right at the top here. Follow Dr. Natasha Weems. She just released her book, Unbreakable Woman. We talked about that. Natasha, what are two to three other little tidbits that people can expect in your book?
So you can also, like I said, the mental health, I do some biblical scriptures to keep you empowered. I talk about different things that affirmations. So it's really a book driven to empower, to really make you feel more confident with some of your decisions, to let you know that you are not alone on this journey. We all fall short of the grace of God, but all we can do is wake up and try again and try to, live our authentic selves and do the best we can, because life is too short. So enjoy life and understand that you're going to make some mistakes, but these are some tools that can help you on your journey.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's all you can do. And I'm glad that I can share my life, and I'm glad that I can share my insight and my perspective. And I just hope that it can really, make an impact. So,
well, it will make an impact. I can tell you that. So where can people find your book?
So you can go to natashademp.com. I have a IG page, which is an author page, all on my link. So Dr. Natasha _ everything is on my link in my bio. I have a link tree. So I have a lot of different things ironed out. And my business partner and I were working on a film project. So we're so excited to be a voice and have diversity and representation to empower people and women that look like us. And to talk and shine light on some health care disparities. And I think that's one of the things that's really necessary. And also I want to, be more intentional with community service as well. That I'm from Detroit, and before relocating, that was something that I really, was involved in and a part of a lot of different projects. And so that's my goal in California. Mm-hmm. And this weekend, I am going to be hosting some events. You can look on my bio for that too. There's a big, program, a fundraiser gala this weekend, and it's to help bridge the disparity and help build hospitals and access to care for people in Africa. So it's some really amazing people that I've met and encountered. And just go to my page and kind of look through some of my posts and kind of, get more knowledgeable and see what's going on. But there's people out here that's really trying to make an impact on a global level, so that's very admirable to me. But yeah.
Well, listen, guys, she's a doctor, nurse
practitioner. Yes.
She is an entrepreneur. She's an author. I mean, she's a community activist. She's a women's health advocate. She's a health advocate, period. She's amazing. And I enjoyed this time with you. Again, if you guys are not following Dr. Natasha, click that carrot up top, go online to Dr. Natasha NP, right? I got that right. .com, and check out everything she has going on. I will be personally getting your book, and I'll let you know what I think about it. Is it available on Audible or anything like that as well?
It will be. Yeah, when it's officially released, it'll be Audible. It will be an ebook. It will be on multiple KDP, Amazon, Barnes and Noble. It will be available. And obviously, if it's ordered from me during the pre-order, I can, sign it. And I'm going to be sending out special gifts for people supporting me. And so obviously, when you purchase from my site, I can actually have the book and write it, write in the book different messages of inspiration or whatever I want to say to, you guys. And then with Amazon, it delivers straight from them. So I just have to explain that because people sometimes ask me that. So they're like, can you sign a book about order from Amazon? I'm like, no.
It's an Amazon site.
They're not going to send it to me first.
Perfect says, when does the book drop?
It's definitely going to be dropping around the holidays, so it'll be right around Thanksgiving. So just thank you for your patience. But I just want, when you're going through the book writing process, you get your sample book, you look through it, touch it, read it, smell it, flip it, touch it, read, see if the pages are right, the cover, so I'm very specific. I'm very detail oriented. So I wanted to be right for you guys. So.
Well, this has been great, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you for the amazing questions. I certainly hope that you all found this helpful. Perfect stocking stuffer. I think that's what they're saying. Perfect. Oh, that's a good one. That's a really good one. See, you can even do a post about that. Hey, you looking for something to buy somebody for Christmas? Perfect.
Oh, should I hire them for marketing?
I know, right? Kendall, seems like you got another job, Kendall. So, Dr. Natasha Williams, this has been great. I appreciate you. And you know what? Thank you for being so flexible because, y'all, we supposed to do this a couple of days ago. I had so much going on. I got my days all screwed up and we ended up getting it right. So thank you so very much. I appreciate you. Are there any last words of wisdom you'd like to give everybody before we log off?
Stay prayed up.
Come on.
Stay prayed up.
Well, as I mentioned, I will be purchasing that book for pre-order, and I want that John Hancock in there. Well, listen, this has been amazing. You enjoy your evening. Thanks again, and we will definitely be in contact again, my dear.
Yes. I love all my new girlfriends.
All right, guys, enjoy your night. Right. Thanks so much. Goodbye.